What's up, friends? A little while since I had a video. GDC last week went good, and then I went off to PAX East for a day, and then otherwise it's been a pretty busy time, but it's gone well. And one thing I want to surface is basically realizing there's three major skill areas that you need to work on if you want to be a game developer that are not technical in the usual kind of sense, right? Not in the same kind of way, not just technical as like programming, but not just technical like technical arts, like technical writing, like level design is a technical practice. What I mean by three different skills, let's focus on one at a time. And they map to, not coincidentally, ways that I've realized I'm best serving people in my home team approaches. So one, right, if they just want to lead their kind of project ideas, there's a game that they want to build. And their whole approach is really working backwards from what's going to help them move that direction to be prepared to make the kind of game that's important to them. And if they can make it as a career, great. If they have to learn something as a means to that end, they will. But they're not learning for its own sake. And if the option came up between getting a job that paid them well, but they never got to make their thing, or making their thing, but it's not profitable, they'd rather make their thing, right? They want their thing to exist in the world. That takes courage. And this is a specific skill you can work on, courage, like a muscle, like anything else you practice. But it involves standing up for something when no one else is on your side yet. It involves laying a stake in the ground and saying, this is what I'm doing. And you can join me or not, but this is what I'm doing. That takes courage. It takes recognizing you're going to follow through with stuff with you in the captain's chair. And if it doesn't go great, people are going to blame you. Now, they may not be hard on you about it, but you're going to feel like you, more than anybody else, had a lot of the reason why it did or didn't get across the finish line on time or come out the way you wanted. That takes courage. That's a thing to work on. So that's one of the three categories you can work on. Second kind is persistence. And this mostly comes up people who are working on career track in games. And it's not just the persistence of applying and getting rejected, although we know that's a common part of it. It's known people who went to games schools, games grad schools, still applied to dozens of companies before they got accepted. Out of our home team members who have managed to get industry work if they wanted industry work, which not everyone in my groups are trying for that, but those who did, persistence was essential because they'd have to keep applying before they found the right fit, the right timing for their background, their strengths, what a company was looking for. But I also just mean persistence in the sense of expertise, professional discipline, being better at a specific role than most people. Right? Very rare is the role to get hired as a generalist. Usually you're getting paid because someone needs a better rendering expert. Someone needs a better level designer of a specific kind of level. Someone needs a better kind of, not just a general artist, but a better character artist of a very particular kind of doing characters. But that persistence means doing stuff after it gets kind of boring. Or even when it's not challenging in the same kind of way, if it's not scratching the same part of our brain. One of the biggest challenges I see for a whole lot of folks who they go through a good, maybe computer science degree, and they're struggling to become game programmers, is that they're sort of entertained and engaged and find satisfying the complex puzzles of computer science assignments. The optimization things that really in practical sense are irrelevant to most software being produced. That more often than not, a modern processor, modern graphics, computer capabilities, modern control systems, etc., modern engines, the problem is not 5 really complex brain teaser puzzles. It is thousands, if not tens of thousands of little tasks, each of which is, again, boring, straightforward. It's that persistence that sets apart someone who's ready to do it as a job, ready to do it as a career, after the point it becomes kind of less fun than it used to be. And maybe only fun in hindsight of pride in the thing that we accomplished. It's persistence of the marathon runner who, one step at a time, finishes that full length of a run. Not that any given moment was heroic. In the same kind of way as we might like the satisfaction of, that persistence is a different kind of skill to work on. Again, it's something you can practice that. Something that doesn't come naturally to everybody. Something that is not a fit for all personality types, in which case, honestly, it's going to be hard to find a career doing this because the career is looking for someone who wants to be persistent in a particular narrow niche, even if it'd be more fun to chase other skill areas for enrichment, for entertainment. Persistence is what tends to align to the job path. And the third trait I want to talk about, and this is for those folks who they do want to scatter around the skill areas. They like to do some modeling and some music and some icons and some sound effects, some level design, programming, all across the board. They want to run testing. They want to do all different kind of bits and pieces. They like having their hands in everything. They don't really care to do the persistence game. They're not trying to become deeply specialists. They probably aren't looking for a job doing this. Realistically, again, there's very few jobs that want you to be a little bit familiar with lots of stuff. That's not really how jobs typically work. It doesn't take the same courage or bravery as planting a flag and saying, this is what we're doing, and if it fails, look at me. Right? That's a different kind of lens on approaching games. But this is about adaptability. This is about recognizing that I can shapeshift myself. If I'm a generalist, fundamentally, and I can just as easily do writing or sound or level design, and I might not be the best at any of those, or programming. I might not be the best at any of these, But if I can do them to help fill in cracks, to serve a support role so that games come across the finish line that otherwise would have had these noticeable gaps. Because maybe they have some great persistent specialists really delivering next level on models or on code performance or on mechanically what's happening in the systems. But there's other bits and pieces missing. Missing support about transitions, missing support about icons, missing transitions about how the inventory looks or works or descriptions or details. Things that honestly just take someone willing and able to do that work who doesn't see themselves as a matter of identity of, I don't do that. And this is one of the challenges of someone who is courageously leading their project, might a little bit, do a little bit of filling in, but they probably are mostly trying to be in the really heavy, where's the player's attention? At the loss of the areas that are important, but individually, again, not heroic. Similarly for the persistent expert, where their skill might be on, like I say, doing incredible work, but they're more likely than anybody else to say, but I am here to do music. I am not a programmer. I am here to write code. I am not a writer. That's a choice we can each make. But this other angle, if you want to be functionally useful to teams, adaptability is the ability to show up and say, I don't know yet exactly what this team is going to need from me, but I am prepared to shapeshift and become the person they need me to be. And if they become an expert in how squirrels migrate, if they even do that, how crops get grown, how music of a certain era sounded for, C64, well, I'm going to go figure that out. And I may not be the best at it, but, it's getting done. And those kind of adaptable people are an essential part of a group thriving. And this is why within Home Team, all the time when I read about business advice and structuring of organizations and marketing and stuff, one of the problems is you're not supposed to try to speak to more than one kind of customer segment at a time. Because the worry is that when you're serving one, you're kind of dissuading the others. You're driving those other ones away. That's actually why it's been so important now. Our front door of Home Team GameDev now lays out, are you here to make the games you like to play? Are you here to change your career? Or are you here to kind of learn and have fun, right? That those are different paths, because then I can set up for you and show you which benefits relate to that. I can tell you examples of stories of past members who've had that success through our approach and our frameworks. But we really need all three. As a community, with all three people combined, that's what makes our projects possible. Somebody's got to be leading the project. Somebody's got to be willing to say, out of all the things we could be doing, here is what I am willing to take responsibility to see through to the end. That's our people who they're here with the courage. We definitely need people who are willing and able to show up and really, they're trying to hammer out skills at a very high level because they're looking for jobs, they're looking for work. Now, sometimes those members don't stick around for very long because they have a fuse on as soon as they get a job, most of them leave, right? They're coming and going. They want to get jobs somewhere else. They need to check some boxes for a resume, portfolio, show they've demonstrated ability on whether it's Android or VR or Godot or Unreal or Unity or JavaScript or whatever they're trying to do. They need to show I have recent experience doing that on release projects that aren't behind an NDA. They get those things done, bam, bam, bam. Sometimes it's 3 to 4 months, sometimes it's a year. Then they're gone. That's very different from those leads. We've had leads around for 7, 8 years. We're just making the games they want to make. And again, their goal isn't, can I commercialize this? Their goal is, there's things I want to exist in the world. I'm going to drive that. And then similarly, between the two, right? If we just had those two, there wouldn't be enough teammates. This is part of why an essential part of this triangle too is those folks who, again, are there for enrichment, the adaptability. People really playing to that character strength of, I like to fill in the cracks. I like to be supporting roles. And this is where we have members in Home Team. They have been on dozens, that's not an exaggeration, dozens of released games. And one of the interesting things are we have really specific credits in Home Team. And this is important for us, right? I always go back through GitHub and I compile very carefully who did exactly what. Not just a pile of programmers, but who did which features, which fixes, which art, which sound effects, which level design, and so on. And if these people have been on a lot of projects, they often haven't been on major roles on any of them. A few assets here and there. Some sounds on this one. A little bit of art on that one. Maybe some icons. Maybe some inventory elements. Maybe a bit of writing here for some descriptions for objects. Maybe they fixed a few bugs here or there in little ways, but not driving core systems. And again, that is valuable. That's satisfying for them. And partly it's just a kind of enrichment thing. It's kind of this classical philosophical idea of wanting to be a balanced person. Wanting to be the kind of person who can play an instrument and give a speech and have career relevance, but also kind of have a deeper understanding of humanities. It's that want for enrichment. I think of it as the same reason why Bob Ross paints, right? It's making things, learning things, seeing the connection between things as satisfying in a different way than being a deep specialist, which isn't bad. But it's that we do need all of these people together. It's what makes these projects successful, right? It's those people who have the persistence on the details beyond when they're no longer as fun because they're following through. They have the discipline, the determination to follow through to do things at a really high level. That helps the video reel The screenshots look better for everybody. Without those people who have courage, there aren't actual projects to hook into for anybody. Because even the people who are looking for persistence, who want a career, it's this interesting thing we often run into. I talked about this a lot at GDC. There'll be someone who thinks, oh, if I just go make my big indie game and it's kind of my idea, it's going to help me get a job. Realistically, most companies don't want to hire you to make your thing, right? They want to hire you to disappear into the Halo team, Call of Duty team, Destiny team, whatever else they're trying to build. They want to see you can have a major role in someone else's project. So occasionally we have people who are going in career track. They'll lead a project just to make sure they're optimizing a project around what's best for their career path. But fundamentally for that pathway, it's actually more relevant in most cases that it's something where people have really contributed in substantial ways to games that they were not the lead on. We find it's one of the most best indicators for a person is really career track aligned. That's kind of persistence they're demonstrating. Nonetheless, I want to throw up there as well some examples, and I'll just kind of pull up here a handful of examples. If you go to hometeamgamedev.com/games, that'll take you to our 200 games we've now released on itch. You can see our detailed credits I'm talking about. And you know, the thing about these 200 games, you'll see there's some very advanced games, there's some very not advanced games, and we're not shy about that, because this is where I think we don't want to intimidate people away. We don't say you don't have to work your way up to, being a project lead. If you want to lead, I'll help you do it. It's going to be at your level of fluency so you can learn and release on time and finish that stuff, get some team support and get some expert help from our specialists and so on. But if you click on any one of these red names at the top, what you're going to see now is a character sheet. And that character sheet's going to show you for that member which boxes they have checked under these different categories between what I've been talking about as being, you know, persistence or bravery or adaptability. But you can actually see how those map to concrete things, some of which they do in home team, some of which they do outside of home team. And we found this a really useful tool to help people figure out where have they kind of been stacking their efforts over the months, over the years, and building up the kind of development track that they're on, to be conscious of, is that the path they want to be on? Because part of what is so important about what we do in home team is that I saw 10 years ago when I was at Georgia Tech, and I see it again a little now when I'm at Northeastern teaching part-time this past school year, is I'll see a case where someone is spending maybe 6-7 years getting into a job that they're going to keep for less than a year because it fundamentally, deeply is at odds with what they actually want, right? They've been on this career treadmill because of what they thought was important to them, and they eventually realized that actually there's games that they want to make. They just want to make that game. That's what's important to them. Or they just really like enrichment. That's what's important to them, in which case, well, I hope they're able to find that path, right? But anyway, that's it for today. I want to thank you for following along as always. If you're interested in taking part in our systems, check us out at hometeamgamedev.com. You'll learn more about it there. We've got a quiz that's going to help you kind of assess through 8 simple questions, get a free gift out of that. Oh, and by the way, as part of that quiz, at least, and again, maybe this will change that. I've still left it on there. There's a way after you fill out the quiz, you'll be able to have an option to have literally a half an hour call with me. Totally free, no strings attached, just however I can help you. It's not even just about answering home team questions, but if I can help you, I'll help you. And I've had people who've used that half hour, said it changed their life. Course corrected, helped them better get to the heart of what it is that they're after, help them figure out what they can be doing differently strategically. Sometimes just little adjustments. Those little adjustments over time make a big difference. Now, but here's what not to do, because I had 2 of these happen in the past 24, 48 hours or so. 2 people took the survey, scheduled time with me on my calendar, and then did not show up for it. Now, to be clear, and this is, I don't think it's a humble brag, people pay me hundreds of dollars an hour for consulting. This is offered for free. It's for half an hour. People who use it say it changes their life sometimes. Now, maybe not. That's also why there's no risk in having half an hour call. But anyway, if you're not going to use the call, maybe don't schedule it. Anyway, for the rest of you, hope you decide to make games. If you want to chat with me, take that quiz on hometeamgamedev.com at the bottom. If you decide to schedule a call, no pressure to if you don't want to, but if you do schedule it, I hope you'll show up for it. Keep making games, everybody. Decide what you're after, right? You're after bravery, you're after persistence, you're after adaptability. How are you working on practicing those traits above and beyond? Can you write code? Can you make art? Can you make sound effects? That's great. For it to be useful to a team, useful to a company, useful to yourself, useful in your life span, the objectives you're after, it's going to take that extra little difference of recognizing what are those traits that aren't just, I can technically do the skill, but I'm following through with it. I'm doing it past the point that it was fun, or I'm really I'm being intentionally a generalist. And what does that mean to me about my enrichment, about how I'm growing? Or about I am leading projects. I'm not waiting for people's permission to say, yes, there's a demand for this. I'm just going to make the thing because I want this thing to exist in the world first and foremost. That's what I'm after. And wanting to move that forward in the version I can. This might be compromised, might be imperfect. It's better to exist in that way than no way at all. Anyway, starting to chase my tail here. Catch you all today. Thanks for being here as always. Bye for now.